Imagine an airy workspace that feels like a modern oasis, or a cafe that's cosy and inviting, or a vibrant shopfront that draws customers in. Whatever space you're dreaming up, the IKEA Business Network is here to help you create a better everyday life at work. Join the IKEA Business Network for free and instantly access benefits including a one-on-one with an interior designer, member discounts and perks for your staff and family. So go on, join the IKEA Business Network now at ikea.com.au/business.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 of First Act, a podcast from Koshi's Business Builders. My name is Adam Bubb, and I like nachos, crosswords, and Taylor Swift.
And I'm Sess Busby, and I like mushrooms, Wordle, and Patti Smith. Yes. So we're the hosts of First Act, and each episode we take you through a journey through the origin stories of Australia's most innovative entrepreneurs.
The winding roads, the deep dark corridors, the aha moments. These interviews are frank conversations that should hopefully inspire and entertain you, reminding all of us that your first act can lead to anything. Sess, it's good to be back.
Yes, indeed. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, so it's definitely good to be back. I'm looking forward to hearing lots of fascinating origin stories. And I'm very, very excited to kick off the show today with someone that I think is pretty amazing. So let's not keep our special guest waiting any longer. Astrid Jorgensen. That's how it's said, I'm pretty sure. Astrid Jorgensen, OAM. She's got those initials at the end of her name as well, OAM, Order of Australian Medal. She believes that anyone can sing because in March 2017, the former high school music teacher, she really put that theory to the test by gathering 80 people into one venue in her hometown of Brizzy. And there, she did just that. As a choral conductor, composer and performer, Astrid arranged their harmonies to a popular song and shared it online. And guess what? Pub choir was born.
Astrid has since taught more than 300,000 people. That number's probably increased since it was last updated. How to sing with her unique live events that blend comedy, music, and beer. Her events now sell out across Australia and the UK, Ireland, the US, and New Zealand. Astrid, talk about starting First Act on a high note. Welcome.
Well, it started with the high note of my puppy dog, Penny, but it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, for those of us, like myself actually, who have not been to a pub choir event, can you kind of walk us through it? What happens at an average show?
It's regular people who buy a ticket to the show, and I run an improvised comedy music lesson to teach the audience, whoever they are, how to sing together in harmony. It's not karaoke, it's not singing along, it's actually learning a new arrangement that I bespoke craft for every show. So you walk in as the audience and you leave as a performer, and there's lots of intricate details that go in between those two points. But yeah, basically I improvise the show around how the audience responds, and we always end up with an interesting product at the end.
I've read that your biggest audience has been 5,000 people. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, we might have had at Christmas we had 7,000 for our big Christmas fundraiser in Brisbane at River Stage. During COVID, we actually had a TV show. I think 200,000 people might have tuned into that, but they weren't in the room with me. That's one hell of a room. But probably the largest live audience might have been at Christmas. So that's 7,000 is a very big choir.
That's enormous. I mean, my sister's a teacher and controlling a classroom of 30 kids is hard enough. How do you command a room of 5,000, 7,000 people?
I don't know. I just try and think faster than they can. I'm the only one who knows this arrangement because I bespoke, as I said, make them for the show. So the audience will have to listen to me if they want to be a part of the end result. And I keep the show really fast paced. And I really like when I say improvised, I don't have a single word prepped. I just go in and explain as fast as I can and respond as fast as I can when they sing something different to what I expected or whatever. Like it's really shaped live at the show. So I guess I'm pretty proud of how chaotic it is because I feel like I thrive in that environment. Not everyone does. So yeah, I don't know. To be honest, as soon as the show starts and I walk on stage, I almost dissociate. Like it's a total flow state. I can't really explain how I know what to say. But at the end of the show, there's always a fun product that has been created by the audience.
Sounds fantastic. Now, you believe that everybody can sing. Now, I've heard a few Idol auditions that will probably make me question that theory, but why do you believe that? Why do you think everyone's a singer inside?
Well, everyone being able to sing is different from everybody being able to sing well, right? Those are two really different concepts. Everyone is able to start something. If you've been born with a voice, then you have all the materials you need to sing. Does it mean that you will win an award or an aria? Probably not. But I think it's a lazy excuse not to do something just because you're not the best at it. I think um, if you enjoy singing, that is a perfect reason to begin. And so I think everyone is capable of beginning singing. And if you really wanted to get better, you would work at it just like any other skill in life. But pub choir is not promising any of that. I just want people to feel less ashamed. But if you've walked into the show with a really average voice, you will walk out with the exact same one. It's more like a demonstration of the idea that you are good enough to begin anything, really. Just like if you wanted to learn how to be a marathon runner, you probably have to go for a walk every day first or something. Like this is the first step. And I'm just showing people that you had all the tools that you needed to begin.
You're like couch to 5K for singers.
Exactly. Except we never really get off the couch, and that's fine too.
I love that you mentioned shame as being a really important part of what people let go when they come to, because it's not just singing that they get out of it. It's not just, there's a sense of community and there's a sense of connecting with other people. That's why they come to pub choir. But yeah, that sense of shame, that can be a really deep-seated thing, and it can really take an experience like that to kind of wrestle it out of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think most of us carry some degree of shame about our singing voices. Even like I've studied it at uni, and I don't feel that I have a voice that I would want to show off all of the time. Like it's so personal when you sing and you sing out of tune or something. It is you that did it. Like your body made the notes wrong, kind of thing. I'm putting wrong in inverted commas. If you play the piano and you press the wrong button, the wrong key, you can kind of identify what's gone wrong. Or if you play the guitar and you can't get your fingers around the chord shapes, you can see what's going wrong. But when you sing out of tune, you can't see anything. It's all an experience, and it all comes from you. Every other instrument is external to you, but singing is the only one that kind of lives within you. So when it's not going well, it does feel really personal, because it is. But I think that on the flip side is the most amazing thing of all about singing. It's totally unique to the user. I feel like even if it does come out all wonky, only you can ever make that noise. I feel like that is a good enough jumping off point for anyone. That's really exciting to me, that it's like every single show, even if I taught the exact same song in the exact same wording every single night, it would always sound different. Choirs are made up of individual people expressing their individual selves at the same time. It's kind of like as close as we can get to magic in my mind. It's so easy. It's in you. It's your body that is the instrument.
You're making me want to sing right now.
Go on
Look, I have,
then.
in the spirit of first that no, I'm not going. I will not. I will not.
Me, 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 me.
Right now, I'd let go of some shame and go, Astrid. There you go.
Yes.
There you go. First episode back, and you ready? Got me singing. In the spirit of first act, I really want to know where your love of music came from and what your first memory was of when music really moved you.
Look, I would be surprised if anyone can really pinpoint in their life like their first musical experiences. Music is so richly interwoven into the fabric of all of our lives. Like it is just everywhere all the time. And so I can't really think there was a moment where I was like, is that song? Like, but I know, and again, there's no specific thing that I can think of, but I know that all along I've been able to hear music in a lot of detail, and I didn't come to appreciate that as a skill that not everyone has until much later. So when I got into uni, I actually applied to study singing at uni as an undergrad, and I was rejected. And I thought, oh, like if you're not good at performing, there's nothing else in music. I didn't know that you could be a really good musician even if you're not a star performer. Like, and when I look back on it, I was not good enough to get into the vocal course. Like, but I was very musical, and I didn't know that there was a difference between performing and thinking. And so I went to uni and just studied a Bachelor of Arts, and I did music subjects around the edges. And it wasn't until I got into those classes where I was sharing learning spaces with people who had got into the course and were like highbrow musicians that were accepted into the music learning world, and I, a measly like arts goblin on the side, wanting to do the same classes as them. And we would get into the lectures, and I realized that musical thinking is a different skill altogether, and you can be a great musician if you can hear a lot of detail and you can think musical thoughts. And so I just didn't know what to do with all of this music inside me. What do I do with, like, I can hear so much and I can think about so many musical layers at the same time. What do I do with that? And it wasn't, yeah, till I finished school that I realized there were actually avenues to put musical thoughts into practice, not just performance.
How's your maths? Because often they say maths and music go very hand in hand.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm Asian, but not great. Like all signs point to like I should be good at maths. Look, I think I'm okay at it. I do have a really good numbers recall actually. But I must say, maths doesn't like calculus is not part of my everyday life. So I don't know. I don't put it to the test very much, but I did okay at school. And yeah, maybe there is some kind of logical thinking behind music that I think has a lot of similarities to mathematics, but I'm certainly no mathematician.
And what about your musical influences? What kind of music impacted you growing up? Like, what are your early music memories?
I mean, I had music lessons really early as a kid. I think I had them as young as 2, actually. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my family was actually, I don't know how to say it in the right way, but it was definitely lower middle class, and they were scrabbling together pennies. Like 5 kids is too many if you really think about it. And so I they pooled their money into music lessons. It was like the number one priority. And I actually know that my grandparents overseas in China, in Singapore, sorry, sent money specifically for music lessons. So it was like we were like wearing hand-me-down clothes, but we're going to violin lessons really young. I feel like it was just this real priority in the family about development as children. I don't think that my parents had a goal of anyone being a musician. I think that they just thought it was a tool um, to develop. And all of my older brothers had music lessons ahead of me, and I think I was kind of the beneficiary of their lessons. None of them have gone on to do music in life, but I think I grew up with just this music everywhere, and for some reason it just made a lot of sense to me as a kid early on. The whole time I just sort of seemed to not like, I guess what I was saying in the last question about musical thoughts, I guess I've always been able to compare external sounds to internally what I thought about it, and to kind of match the two up. So like if I hear, I can remember it being a little kid hearing a song on the radio and then being able to play it on the piano because I could compare what I heard to what I thought it would be. Yeah, it's always kind of been there inside, looking for a way out.
It's so interesting because you've kind of got people who are very technical in music, and then you've got people who kind of run by feeling. But I love this notion of musical thinking because you have people who are visual thinkers, and then people who are, I mean, I'm very wordy. Cess, am I wordy? I love words. Words are my thing. So that's how I think. But yeah, that idea of that as your frame of how you view the world, and it's also your superpower. But I'm interested to know, because you lived the first few years of your life in New Zealand and moved to Australia in around 98, if I'm right.
Ooh.
I know, I've done my Wikipedia. How did that
Stalker!
how did that upheaval impact your sense of identity? Was it always an easy thing to kind of integrate from kind of New Zealand to Australia? Or
I do think it was. Look, I was 8 when we moved, and like I said, the youngest of the family, of a big family, so it impacted everyone. I think in increasing degrees as it went up the family age chain. But for me, I think the biggest difference that I found moving was that I guess when you grow up, we grew up in a small area of New Zealand, and we had like a real community of people. And my parents had been there for, my dad grew up there decades, his whole life. And so there was just this real sense of like a network of people. And I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't know that there was a difference that you could experience. But I guess we moved to Australia and just were kind of like an island by ourselves. So our family probably, became a little bit insular, not in like a terrifying way, just in a, we would hang out together because we didn't know anyone yet. And we would, have family movie nights on Fridays and things like that. Like I think it kind of, we became a little bit more introspective. And I guess I just became a little bit aware of, oh, I have to like make friends from scratch now. Whereas, I grew up with like baby friends that we all went to the same primary school together, and it was kind of just intuitive, but actually having to actively become a person who relates to others. I suppose it's a good lesson to learn, really. But yeah, I think I became aware of it when we moved. I was like, oh, I actually have to go and talk to people now.
Look, it's a good skill to have.
Being able to talk to people.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So you mentioned earlier, music always being part of your life, your family putting monies into it so that all the kids could have your music lessons. But it- when did you realize that that was actually something that you wanted to do, that music was something you wanted to do with your life? And how supportive, when your family heard that, how supportive were they of you taking that career arc rather than, you said from an Asian family? Were there any of those other pressures?
I wasn't interested in being a professional musician during school. I thought that I didn't even take music as a subject for most of my high school. I only took it in year 12 when I was failing something else. And I was like, oh, I need an easy A. Music is so easy, but it's not easy for everyone. I didn't understand that. I thought it was like a dumb, like a dumb thing. So it's surprising to me that this is my whole life now, that I really don't think it's dumb. I guess at the end of school, when I moved into music as a subject, to help keep my grades up, and then I like topped the subject, and they said if you switch to music in year 12, you're going to have to roll year 11 and year 12 all into one year so that you've got all of the assessments done. And I don't even think I ever, I don't even remember worrying about it. Like, it was all very straightforward to me. And I was too young to appreciate that it is very exciting and rare to be naturally good at anything, and you should grab that with both hands. I think it just, at that time, I was like, oh, this throwaway subject that is so easy to get an A plus in. But now I've been a teacher and it's not. But I think at the end of school, I was like, well, it ended up being my strongest subject, and I thought, yeah, I'll just audition for uni and see if I can get in, because apparently I'm good at it. That's what my teacher said. And then I didn't get in, as I mentioned. It wasn't until the end of kind of my first year at uni when it really started to dawn on me that those, I took them as extra credit subjects, and I kept coming out trumps on top of those classes as well. And I remember just it really started to settle in when I was at uni, that like, oh, people who are really incredible performers, who have had many music lessons than I have, are not doing as well in these subjects. I know that sounds sort of like this stupid self-absorbed thing. Like, of course, I just really didn't know that other people thought differently. You don't know what other people think like. It came as a surprise to me that not everyone could hear the songs that we were learning in these lectures and write them down by memory or something. I just genuinely didn't know. And so at the end of that first year, when I like got these great marks for music, I was like, am I good at music? And I switched my majors over, and I did really well at uni. And actually what happened was, it's interesting that you mentioned before about, we all think differently visually, whatever. Um, it turned out that I have this skill. I was able to name my skills and my thoughts. And it's one word that you can give to musical thinking is called audiation, which is when you can think in rich musical detail with no physical sounds present. And I didn't know, but that is something that I can do. I don't have to hear songs to think about how they would work or how they fit together. I can, yeah, think in a lot of detail. And when I was at uni, I learned to name the sounds that I was thinking. They have systems of naming musical thoughts and the relationship between notes. It's all getting very technical, but it wasn't until I actually got in there and learned a little bit of like theory and technique that I was like, wow, I think I might actually have a skill in life. What a wonderful thing to discover.
I think being able to land on the name for what you have is kind of half the battle, isn't it? And then it's about this, like that gets you your self-confidence to go, right, I'm really good at this. I know this. Now how am I gonna sell that to the world, or how am I gonna show the world that this is really important? You
Yeah, it was very empowering.
Yeah, you mentioned teaching before. Now you've been a vocal teacher and a high school teacher. How did those experiences help you realize maybe you didn't want to be in a classroom setting forever?
Yeah, look, I'm a huge fan of, oh, I won't use bad language, but F around and find out. Like the fastest way to learn something or to know what you think about something is to experience it for me. And so at the end of my undergraduate degree, I thought, well, I've got all these musical thoughts. I'm not going to be a performer. How can I put this into practice? So I did a dip ed and I thought I'll go into classrooms. My dad was a high school teacher and he specifically said to me all throughout my childhood and when I was at uni, I don't think you'll like teaching. So of course I went and did it and I found out that I didn't like it, but like out of spite, I needed to be like, oh, don't tell me what to do. But he was very right. But what I didn't like was, for me, music had the magic of music had been experiential. I had done exams on certain instruments or whatever, and I had done subjects and been given marks, but it was never about that for me. It was always about like um, expressing things to people with your voice or playing an instrument in such a way that you help evoke complex feelings in other people or like connecting with others in an ensemble and having this like other mechanism of experiencing something together at the same time. Like it was never about the judgment stuff associated with music. So I hopped into the classroom and it felt really wrong to me that kids would be singing their hearts out and showing you everything that they've got and then you'd be like, it's a C plus, I'm so sorry. Like I don't want to be the judge of anyone's experience. I just want to facilitate experiences for people, and that is not what schools necessarily are always for, and I think that's fine. Like there's different rooms in the house of learning and for me my one is the experience room. But yeah, it just never felt right to me. And I also, to if music is not something that just makes sense for you at the beginning, there is definitely a pathway to understanding, but I think it can be a little bit theoretical, a little bit technical. And so a lot of the kids that would come into the class loved music. Who doesn't love music? I think it's pretty lovable. But then they would arrive at the classroom and say, I hate music, the subject, because it's so boring. We have to learn about like the notes on the staff and all this stuff. I think that learning that stuff is a vehicle to really exciting things, but it just felt like I was ruining the experience of music for children, which is like a very big burden to bear, right? Like these beautiful children come in, they love music, and then they sit down and they hate music all of a sudden. It was very confusing for me. So it didn't sit right with me. I know so many wonderful music educators and they are changing the world and they're changing children's lives, but it wasn't me. I just felt guilty and confused all the time. And I just, it wasn't the right job for me.
Mm. So interesting hearing what you're saying, because for you, the music being magic and music being connection, and then you get into that classroom setting and everything's about judgment, that all that magic and connection seems to have been taken away. It's really interesting to hear you saying that. Um, Look, we'll be back to hear more about pub choir and Astrid Jorgensen's journey to making a pub choir and bringing it to the people after this short break.
Need to refresh your workspace? Want discounts for your business, your staff and your family? The IKEA Business Network is here to help you create a better everyday life at work. Join the IKEA Business Network and instantly access a range of exciting benefits tailored to your unique business needs. It's free to join and you get access to quick fix design tips, member discounts and some amazing perks for your people at over 400 retailers. Join the IKEA Business Network now at ikea.com.au/business.
So, Astrid, at what point then did the idea for pub choir come to you? What was the spark that ignited the idea?
I mean, on one level, it's not a new idea at all, is it? Because singing has always existed and human beings have always done it together. There has been no observed human culture ever in history, in the bones, in any archaeological discovery of human remains of culture of any civilization that didn't have music. So, on that level, I have no claim to anything. It's just a thing that we've always done. The idea that I think has really sparked interest with the way that I present this very old human experience is that it takes away all of the cultural baggage that has been accumulating over time. So I think when you say, I'm in a choir to someone now, certainly in Australia, in the West, if you say I'm in a choir, immediately I think a lot of people conjure up a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with choir, but has become synonymous with choir, like satin sashes and like really old music repertoire from old dead men, and like lots of rehearsals and standing in rows and auditions and all this stuff. None of that has anything to do with choir, right? It's just stuff that we have superimposed onto this idea, but actually, choir is just people singing together. So I think pub choir is just a representation of what choir is, people singing together. It says pub in the title, but that is, I think it's become more of a suggestion of it's being casual, because pubs are where we go to meet with friends, where we go to relax. It's a judgment free kind of place to go and to hang out and to socialize. Because now, of course, it's at theatres and in live music venues around the world and around Australia. I think at the very beginning, when I did the first show in 2017, I certainly had no grand ambitions. I knew that it felt like a good idea, though. That's what I would say. I guess I'd never had a good idea in my life before, because I thought I had. And then I thought about doing pub choir, the show called Pub Choir at a pub in Brisbane. And for some reason, that just like, it was like a sparkly feeling. I was like, oh, this is going to be really, really good. And I had two lovely friends that helped me put on this first event. And like it was just a social media post that went out there. Like it took years and years to even spend $1 on advertising. It's just this like word of mouth organic thing that grew. But even from the very first event, when 70 people came along and I didn't quite know how it would all fit together and everything, I was like, oh, I think I might have found the the perfect recipe for all of my life experience in one little capsule, that I felt like I I found something that only I can do in this way. Lots of people have choirs, lots of people sing at pubs, lots of people do all of the elements of pub choir, but together I was like, again, it was like a moment. I was like, have I done something I'm good at? It keeps happening. What a treat. Yeah, it really has felt the entire time, over 7 years of doing pub choir. It's changed, it's grown, lots of things have happened, but the consistent thing is I feel this strange and new sense of internal confidence that I have something to share. Like I have been thinking about this song in a way that I'm sure you haven't thought about, and I'm going to explain it to you tonight, and I'm going to share with you these extra layers of the music that you might not have considered, and we're going to make something new together, and it feels so exciting to be able to contribute and to show people something new.
And you do pop songs. You do songs that a lot of people would not expect to sing in a choir. Like you were saying, there's a lot of associations people have with what a choir song is. But one of the big breakthroughs for you was when the iconic '90s band, the Cranberries, noticed your performance of their hit song "Zombie" online, and that went viral. Was that a major turning point that got a lot of eyes on you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of really amazing creative people that I know, but everyone who has kind of got to the next level of, I suppose, success or notability, something magical has happened, and it's been a bit of luck and timing and everything. And for me, with pub choir, it was definitely when I taught, as you said, Zombie by the Cranberries, because it just so happened that that week, unfortunately, the lead singer of the Cranberries,
Mhm.
Dolores O'Riordan, passed away, and I had this song ready to go. And so it was only a few days after, and it was it was very electric that night. People really loved this song, and they really wanted to do a good job. I think
Mm.
people always want to do a good job, but it just felt like just this extra spice of seriousness in the air. Like, we have to nail this as a group. Um, and there's this photo that my photographer took, who was standing behind me while I was looking out on stage at the huge crowd in front of me. There was like 500 people there, and I've got my arms up for the final chord of the song, and you can see all up my arms are these goosebumps. And it just felt really special and intense in the room. And there happened to be a newspaper reviewer there. So we got our first big review that night. And then the band saw it after we put the video out of what happened at this show. And it was the first thing that they said after Dolores O'Riordan died. It
Mm.
was like their first comment as a band, and the whole world was kind of looking at them to see how they would respond. And they just posted our video with, like, I think no comment. It was just like, this is the music that we made together with her. And, so it was huge. I like to think deep down, probably I would have got there anyway, because I think it's a really cool, fun show, and people were talking about it lots, but it certainly sped things up. And I'm very grateful for this weird moment of synergy and magic.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps even kind of like hearing about it.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of big fans, though. It's not just the Cranberries that sing your praises. There's people like Mariah Carey thinks you're awesome. Kiss thinks you're awesome. You've been on stage with the Rolling Stones. Like, what's that like? Like, what has been probably, I don't know, the most mind-blowing moment for you in this journey? Is it one of those, going on stage with Rolling Stone? Might be for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty wild, but I had my back to the audience, so because I was conducting a different choir. But look, I think it's all kind of magical. I must say, like, every time there's a collaboration or an interaction with the songwriter or the musician or the band or something like that, it is really special and exciting, but also is totally normal. Like, it's it's almost like this very equalizing thing. It's what I love about choir to begin with. It's just like, even if you have an incredible voice or a really ugly one or a famous one or not, you can only contribute the exact same amount, which is just one. You can only contribute one thing to the choir. And so it's very equalizing. And I think even the musicians, so like Kate Bush sent an email a couple of years ago, which really went gangbusters because she's quite a private person, rightfully so. And but she got in touch after I did this arrangement of running up that hill, and I included strings, and it was all very beautiful, whatever. But she was like, just seeing the joy in their faces is so exciting. And I think even for artists who have heard their own music their whole lives and have been probably doing the same songs for decades or whatever, see something anew in this choir reimagination, which is really cool. Like, that's quite mind blowing that someone who would know this music better than anyone else ever could can see something fresh in it when it's presented by like regular idiots at the pub and just people with no training or whatever. We are capable of making really magic stuff when we help each other, and I think even famous musicians can see that when we show them what is possible. Which is very cool, that all of us are capable of making good art. All of us are capable of being part of something bigger than ourselves. I couldn't. I don't think I could really pinpoint the most special interaction. It's almost like it's just validation for the work with the real people, with the crowds that come to pub choir every time. We are making something super amazing right now. Maybe the songwriter will like it and we'll feel really chuffed and like validated by what we did. So, like, who doesn't want to be pat on the back by Mariah Carey or whatever? But but it just keeps bringing it back to me of like, oh, the people are the thing. Like, people working together and agreeing with each other for a whole night. This is what the magic is, and even Mariah thinks so too.
Mariah has good taste. As you've gone on this journey of kind of being both the artist and the composer and the creator, and then pub choir is becoming a business, and you're an entrepreneur, how have you managed wearing those those two hats? Because that can often be a really like there's a lot of tension in that.
Yeah, how have I managed it? With difficulty. The business and entrepreneurial side of pub choir is like it has been a necessary evil for me. I know that we're on a business and entrepreneurial podcast, but like as soon as pub choir, it became clear to me that this was a viable way for me to make a living and to hire people full time and to become a business. Pub choir is a trademark term. I coined the term. So this is like now the name of my business and my act. And I've got a crew of incredible people that I call upon permanently to help out with the shows and things like that. But all of that has been like a trial of fire and stress for me. I have learned a lot in real time. Just like my show, it's been improvised and responding to real time stimulus, but I have learned so much. I can't say that I would regret anything because I can't go back in time and fix anything. I've got no other options, but I have learned so much about management and about leadership, and it's been the biggest journey of all. Like, yeah, the show has changed and I've got better at arranging songs and teaching or whatever, but the biggest growth has been behind the scenes, me figuring out how the hell I get people on board behind the scenes, and how do we get venues ready, and how do we sell tickets in America, and all these huge behind the scene things have been a real learning curve for me. And I would say I'm not bored. That's what I would say.
Did you have any kind of business mentor to help you out? Because it's
No,
tough
do
to
you
make
know
a
any?
living, isn't it? Yeah.
We know a guy called Koshi.
Look, I have been fueled by this self belief that I think if you are motivated and enthusiastic and clever enough, you can kind of figure out most stuff. There have been junctures of very difficult problems that I have come across in pub choir's life, where I have certainly needed help, lawyers and accountants and all sorts of people to help with things, and management and things like that. But underneath it all, I have found that most problems have been able to be solved by finding a trustworthy, enthusiastic, kind, smart person and telling them the truth. I think this has been one of the biggest learnings for me as a business owner. Am I the CEO? I realized that at the beginning I was doing lots of obfuscating and like massaging of problems behind the scenes because I didn't know how to get people to do what I want, and I was like, I want it to come from them, and I would like drop hints like little breadcrumbs, but actually I could just save time by telling somebody what I want. And it's up to them. It's like very respectful, right? If I just give a clear instruction about what I need and what I want in this situation, and then it's up to them to show me and to integrate that instruction and say, well, I can't do it exactly like that, but now I understand what you want, and here's what I can do. Or maybe they can do it. I think I've become a person who is more respectful of other people's time. Over the last 7 years of pub choir, I've certainly learned to streamline my instructions a little bit, to be a little bit more forthright, not a bitch, but optimistic, and clear. And I think it's changed everything. I feel like post COVID, it's been like this beautiful second wind, reimagining, reawakening of pub choir with just like a lot more clarity, and it's felt so incredible to tell the truth to people and then have a more authentic working relationship with everyone. Everyone feels more trusted if you just like, can I have it like this? Or show me what you could do. It's handing over a lot of trust to the people that I work with, and it's been really lovely of late. A lot less stressful than it used to be.
That is such good advice, though, because you really do. Even if whether anyone's kind of a sole operator, or whether you do have like an in-house team for like whatever industry we're talking about, it is about everybody playing that role to support you to be able to be your best as well. Your business model's unique in that it relies on you. You need to show up. You need to show up on for every show. How do you manage it if you're not feeling it on a day when you've got to really perform Astrid at her sparkliest for thousands?
Yeah, it's funny. Do you know I never really I can be having the worst day, like as anybody can. But it's a saying in like the arts world, Dr. Footlights. As soon as you walk on stage and those stage lights kind of pop on, it's really hard not to respond to the energy, the shared optimistic energy of 7,000 people. Like I think you'd be hard pressed not to feel something. um, and so I could be feeling really ordinary walking on, very tired. Touring internationally is quite a physically tiring thing. And certainly sometimes it shows I have like a really large mental load because of course the show's improvised. I'm teaching people who don't know the source material until I explain it to them. But then I might have also written an arrangement for a live symphony orchestra at the same time. So I will be making this thing. There's like 800 layers going on, and there's so many things to remember. And I've got to remember to get to the end of the first act by a certain time or whatever. There's a lot going on, and I can walk off stage and be absolutely shattered. But I don't know. As soon as you're on stage with that shared optimism of everyone else, I have never found myself lacking on stage. I can feel pretty crap if I'm like really tired walking off, and I'll like unleash some kind of wrath on myself or those around me. Sorry everyone. But yeah, on stage it never feels hard, which tells me I might have found the right thing to do.
I reckon you have found the right thing to do, Astrid. Absolutely. Um, I can't believe it, but we're pretty much out of time. So, just one last question, probably more for our creative entrepreneurs than anyone else who maybe might be feeling a little bit, disillusioned. Will they ever make it? Why should they keep going, and how can they make it work?
Well, I don't know the answer to how can you make it work. I do think that authenticity is something that only you can offer from yourself. I think I have wasted a lot of time in my life trying to be a musician that I've seen in a way that I've seen someone else succeed with. Certainly, when I was more interested in being a vocal performer, I would try and sing like somebody with a famous voice, and music is so unique to the user. Creativity is an entirely individual thing. The less time that you can waste trying to copy something else and to find a truer expression of what it is that you have to offer the world, I think you'll be better off anyway. It'll just feel better, even if you don't get to where, I don't know, some level of success. But also, all creativity is an opinion. There is no objective way to win at creativity. I have not completed choir. If I studied piano for every day of my life, I would not complete piano. I would not, there is no finish line. There is no objective metric. Somebody might think that I sing beautifully, and somebody else might think it's disgusting. Both of those things are true for those people. So it's really about trying to free yourself from trying to meet the expectations of other people, because it doesn't really exist in a true way. It can only ever be true for you. And I read this quote the other day online somewhere where someone said, "Oh, talking about skill acquisition, because I think singing is a skill. You could work at it over time and get better. You might not be great, but you could definitely get better." And someone responded, "Oh, but that would take years. Like it would take me like 5 years to figure that out, of lessons and all this stuff." And the response was, "But the time will pass anyway, won't it?" So time moves in one direction, as far as I'm aware. If you want to get better at something, the time was going to pass anyway. You might as well chip away at it and see if you can find something true to say.
Great advice.
Yeah, our time on Earth is short, and you want to enjoy the experience, enjoy the energy of the room. Yeah, it's exactly what pub choir is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, to me, yeah, I hope so.
Astrid, this conversation has been a symphony of joy. We I'm sorry, I had to. We're afraid that's all we have time for. But listeners, please head to pubchoir.com.au for tickets to future shows, both on our shores and internationally. Astrid, thank you so much for your time today, for all of your insights, and good luck for your upcoming international gigs. You've got quite a few.
Yeah, what a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope to sing with you both soon. And everyone listening, you're good enough to begin.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll sing a little tune for you after this. And thank you as well to our First Act listeners for joining us today. This show's now moving to a fortnightly schedule, so Tune in again in a couple of weeks. We'll have another exciting guest for you. See you then.
Goodbye.
Bye.